vibudha-anucarāḥ. Gopijana vallabha girivardhari. Yasodanandana brajajana ranjana. Yasodanandana brajajana ranjana. Yamunatirabanachari. Yamunatirabanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatirabanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Sotaras at the Sri Srimad Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBD founder Charya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavajikacharya Sotaras at the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Giridhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 33, Text 18, and we're going to do 19 as well, because 18 doesn't have a purport. So I'm going to chant this one myself, and then we'll chant 19 together, since that's the one we're going to be discussing. Okay? Grihojamanam kusumitai ramyam bahumaradrumai kujad vihanga mitunam gayan mata madhuratam. Translation: the compound of the main household was surrounded by beautiful gardens with sweet, fragrant flowers and many trees which produced fresh fruit and were all tall and beautiful. The attraction of such gardens was that the singing birds would sit on the trees, and their chanting voices, as well as the humming sound of the bees, made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible. So who's speaking here? I think Maitreya Muni is speaking to Vidura, and he's describing the palace of Kardama Muni and Devahūti. Okay, so now 19 we will do together. Yatra praviṣṭam ātmānam vibudha-anucarāḥ jaguḥ vāpyām utpala-gandhinyāṁ kardamena upalālitam yatra praviṣṭam ātmānam, yatra praviṣṭam ātmānam, vibudha-anucarāḥ jaguḥ, vibudha-anucarāḥ jaguḥ, vāpyām utpala-gandhinyāṁ, vāpyām utpala-gandhinyāṁ, kardamenopalālitam, kardamenopalālitam, yatra praviṣṭam ātmānam, vibudha-anucarāḥ jaguḥ, vāpyām utpala-gandhinyāṁ, kardamenopalālitam. Yatra, where? Praviṣṭam, entered. ātmānam, unto her. Vibudha-anucarāḥ, the associates of the denizens of heaven. Jaguḥ, sang. Vāpyām, in the pond. Utpala, of lotuses. Gandhinyām, with great fragrance. Kardamena, by Kardama. Upalālitam, treated with great care. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When Devahūti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband, Kardama, gave her all protection at all times. Purport. The ideal husband and wife relationship is very nicely described in this statement. Kardama Muni gave Devahūti all sorts of comforts in his duty as a husband, but he was not at all attached to his wife. As soon as his son, Kapila-Dev, was grown up, Kardama at once left all family connection. Similarly, Devahūti was the daughter of a great king, Swayambhuva Manu, and was qualified and beautiful. but she was completely dependent on the protection of her husband. According to Manu, women, the fair sex, should not have independence at any stage of life. In childhood, a woman must be under the protection of the parents. In youth, she must be under the protection of the husband. And in old age, she must be under the protection of the grown children. Devahūti demonstrated all these statements of the Manu Samhita in her life. As a child, she was dependent on her father. Later, she was dependent on her husband, in spite of her opulence, and she was later on dependent on her son Kapila-dev. Om ātmānam dasya jananjana shalakaya chakshur militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave namaha. Shri Chaitanya manobhistam stapitam yena bhutale swayamupakadamayam dadati swaparantikam. So Prabhupada starts this purport by stating that this is ideal. The ideal husband and wife relationship is being nicely described in this statement. So we're hearing about ideal family life. But then it goes on to say, in the purport here, that Kardama Muni, he was not at all attached to his wife. So one might ask the question, well, if he wasn't at all attached to his wife, why is he going to all this trouble? To make all these arrangements, all this, for all sorts of comfort, that palace and everything, and etc. Why is he going to all that trouble if he's not at all attached? Well, the answer to that question is found earlier in this pastime. If you remember, going back, I guess, probably a few months ago now, Kardama Muni, a little bit about his history. Who is his father? Who's Kardama Muni's father? What? No. Yeah, who's his father? No. We got 2 guesses so far. Any other guesses? Huh? Anybody know? Who is Kardama Muni's father? Huh? That's correct. Lord Brahma is his father. Okay? So, now we'll get back to the original question. So why is Kardama Muni doing it? He's not at all attached to his wife. Why is he going to all this trouble that he's giving her all comforts and all protection? Why? Huh? Specifically, more specific, what was the duty? What duty, what exactly was the duty that he was assigned? By who? Correct. Yeah, Lord Brahma. In 321.6, it states that he was commanded by Lord Brahma to assist him in populating the universe. Okay? So that makes sense. See, he's got, Lord Brahma is his father. Lord Brahma is the top, personality in the whole universe, and he's giving him this assignment. So that's why. Now, why is Lord Brahma engaging him like that? Why is Lord Brahma engaging his son in, becoming a grihasta and one of the progenitors? Why? Anybody know? Huh? Why? It's hard. There's a reason. It's a humorous answer, but why is Lord Brahma doing that? Why is he bothering to, want to have offspring and populate the universe? What? He's creating, yeah. Yeah. So, but whose order is he acting on? Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's the correct answer, and that's the person who gave him the order. It's coming right from Krishna, that he should do that. Okay, populate the universe. Okay, and you already gave the answer to the next question. Why does Krishna want to do that? Why does Krishna want to populate the universe? And the answer was given very nicely by Mother Kunadarni. This is from the 3rd canto, chapter 5, text 24 in the purport. It says, the Lord wanted to create the cosmic manifestation to give another chance to the conditioned souls who were dormant in forgetfulness, like she was saying. The cosmic manifestation gives the conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. and that is his main purpose. The Lord is so kind that in the absence of such a manifestation, he feels something wanting, and thus the creation takes place. The whole process is to enliven the sleeping conditioned souls to the real life of spiritual consciousness, so that they may thus become as perfect as the ever liberated souls in Vaikuntha lokas. He likes every part and parcel of his to take part in his eternal lila, which is the highest living condition, perfect in spiritual bliss and eternal knowledge. So that's what's going on. That's the big picture. See, Kardama Muni's doing this. He's taking all this trouble to, provide all these comforts for his wife and protect her in every different which way. It's part of his service to Lord Brahma, who's asked, to help him populate the universe. And the reason is, we just heard, that Krishna wants to give the conditioned souls a chance to go back home, back to Godhead. And Kardama Muni is sort of like an example of this, because so he was doing this commanded by Lord Brahma, but also in chapter 21, text 15, a few texts forward, he admits, because he does austerities for 10,000 years after receiving that instruction from Lord Brahma, and at the completion of his austerities, he actually sees Lord Vishnu face to face, and when he sees him, he offers prayers. And one of the things he states in his prayers is that, I'm asking for a wife. I know that, somebody's not supposed to pray to you for anything material, but I'm asking for a wife. And he states, to satisfy my lustful desire. So the way that's, I think, is to be understood is, on the whole, Kardama Muni is a great renunciate. But he had like some little vestige or pinch of material desire. Prabhupada says, unless you have some material desire, you're not here in the material world. If you see somebody here in the material world, you could understand that they have some material desire. So Kardama Muni had some, little bit of material desire. On the whole, he was a great transcendentalist, a great yogi, etc. But that was there. So Krishna's giving him a chance to serve him, and at the same time fulfill that desire. So he's a Prajapati, he's a progenitor. So even Lord Brahma has some material desire in general. Sometimes Lord Brahma is a pure devotee, but in general, Lord Brahma has a pure, So that was his situation. It wasn't like he was, lusting after any, he was just praying for a wife. This is a little almost pastime trivia. Kardama Muni is the son of Lord Brahma. Okay, whose father is who is Swayambhuva Manu's father? No, that's his son. Who is Swayambhuva Manu's father? Yeah, Lord Brahma. Okay, so what does that make Swayambhuva Manu and Kardama Muni? They're brothers, okay? Now here's something I just thought of myself this morning. What does that make Devahūti? That's right. Yeah. I never heard that. I never thought of that before. I never heard it mentioned either. But Devahūti is actually the niece of Kardama Muni. But, it's okay. There's enough separation and it's not. But yeah, she's the niece. And he wasn't particularly specifically praying for her, although he knew about her. When he offered these prayers, and then in response to the prayers, Lord Vishnu said, yeah, I know about your desire. And the girl that you've been, desiring, I got somebody already picked out for you. She's perfect. Don't worry. And she's going to come here, be brought here by her father, day after tomorrow, I think he said, And that's, of course, what happened. And then there's a conversation between Kardama Muni, if you remember, this was a couple months ago, between Kardama Muni and Swayambhuva Manu. And in the course of the conversation, it was, Swayambhuva Manu offered his daughter, to Kardama Muni, and he, describing her, and he said, please accept her. She's perfect for your purposes, and, it'll be great. And Kardama Muni very graciously goes, oh yeah, I agree. And he mentioned in the course of the conversation that, I'd heard about her. He didn't mention it was, that's my niece, of course, but he mentioned one such incident when there was a demigod, or an upadeva, his name was Vivasu, and he was flying in a vimana, and Devahūti was on the roof of the palace, and she was playing ball. And this Vivasu, he tried to come down close enough so that he could see her, and he was looking at her, and he became so stupefied by how beautiful she was that he kind of like turned too sharp in his little vimana, or something like a one-seater airplane, and he fell out of the airplane. He fell out of his vimana. So Kardama Muni was remembering that incident. Just a little trivia there. But yeah, so that's the big picture here, that this is happening. We're hearing about ideal husband and wife relationship, and it's ideal because it's in one sense it's ideal because it's coming right down from Krishna. This whole arrangement is originating from Krishna. But another reason it's ideal is that what is the motive of these personalities who are involved in this pastime? Let's analyze that. I mean, first you have Kardama Muni. What is he interested in? Ultimately, he's interested in pure God consciousness, God realization. That's his. He made a deal, so to speak, with Swayambhuva Manu. He said, "Yeah, sure, I'll accept your daughter as my wife, but after we have children, I'm off. I'm going to take sannyas." And Swayambhuva Manu said, "Yeah, okay, that's good. That'll work." And that's what happened. So he did this as a duty, but ultimately, what he was interested in is perfect God, pure God consciousness. Devahūti, once again, this is talking about why it's described as ideal family life. So she had Kardama Muni as her husband. She very faithfully served him and everything. And then she had Kapila Deva as her son, and she heard everything, instructions about devotional service from Lord Kapila Deva. And then he left. And we're about to hear what she does after he leaves. But after he left, she also she became very renounced and just focused on spiritual life. Just for a second, just like meditate on her situation. She's there in the palace. When Kardama Muni left, he didn't say, "Okay, now move out of this." No, she was right there in her palace. Her son instructed her in her palace. She had all sorts of servants and maidservants and this and that there. She had total comfortable situation. But when Kapila Deva left, it says here, the next verse, although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahūti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that her son was separated from her. So she had attachment to her son because he was her son, and also because he happened to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the point is, her focus was, what she's interested in is pure devotional service. What Kardama Muni was interested in is pure devotional service. Even Kapila Deva, who's the son, he's playing the role of a son, but he set the perfect example. It's going to be described later in this chapter. Let's see. I think it's 35. Yeah, later in this chapter it's going to be described that Kapila, when he leaves, he goes, even now Kapila Muni is staying there in trance at the confluence of at Ganga Sagara, where the Ganges meets the sea. So he's there, and it says in trance, for the deliverance of the conditioned souls in the three worlds. And all acharyas or great teachers of the system of Sankhya philosophy are worshipping him. By the way, if you went there, you probably won't see him. It's just like if you go to Bhadravika, you're not going to see Vyasadeva, because it requires more than just travel through three-dimensional space. You have to simultaneously go to another dimension. Like if you go to Bhadravika, you have to go, like Madhvacharya did. It's not like you just go there and, hi Vyasadeva. No. You have to elevate to another level of consciousness. So in the same way, if you went to Ganga Sagara, you don't necessarily see Kapila Deva unless you have the consciousness to be able to do that. But so what an example, the perfect example. The husband is just interested in God consciousness. The wife is interested in God consciousness. The son Kapila, Supreme Person of God, showing the example. So the lesson we're meant to be learning from this is described very nicely. I'm going to try to communicate this lesson in the form of a story that Prabhupada himself told several occasions. There was a Brahmin, and he was worshiping Lord Shiva. And he was worshiping Lord Shiva. He was praying for the best benediction. And he was very sincere, you know. And Lord Shiva at one point said, okay, look, you're praying to me for the best benediction. But for that, that's not me. For that, you have to go to this particular sadhu. His name is Sanatana Goswami. And he told him where he lived, where to find him, you know. And the Brahmin said, okay, I'm off, I'm going. And he went to Sanatana Goswami. And when he got there, Sanatana Goswami greeted him and said, okay, what can I do for you? And the Brahmin said, well, you know, I was praying to Lord Shiva for the best benediction. And he came to me and he told me that I should approach you for the best benediction. And Sanatana Goswami, you know, he thought about it. Okay, you know, he could. Sanatana Goswami is very aware. So okay. So he said, yeah, sure, I'll give you the best benediction. He said, he was in a cave. He was living in a cave on the Himalaya mountains, or no, on the banks of the Ganges or something. I can't remember exactly where he was located, but it was described he was kind of living in a cave. So he said, yeah, just over there in the corner there's a touchstone. You can have that. You know, touchstone means you touch it to any metal, and that metal turns into gold. Right? So the Brahmin was initially, wow, okay, well, thank you. Yeah, I'll take it. And he goes over and gets it, and off he goes. And he's thinking, wow, I'm so fortunate. I got this touchstone. Any piece of metal I touch this to, it's going to turn to gold. And, you know, he's kind of thinking about that, and he's going, you know, returning in the direction of his home. And then it occurs to him, he said, wait a second. If this is the most valuable thing, why was Goswami keeping it over there with all the garbage? It was just, you know, in a pile of garbage. I had to kind of, you know, sift through the refuse to get it. It doesn't make sense. If it's so valuable, why did he have it like that? So he became doubtful. And then he decided, no, there's something fishy going on here. I'm going back there. So he went back to Sanatana Goswami, and he very respectfully made his inquiry. He said, you know, Goswami, you said, I asked you for the most valuable thing, and you told me to get it over there, but you know, you're keeping it with the garbage. If it's the most valuable thing, why were you keeping it over there just in the pile of garbage? So Sanatana Goswami could understand that, okay, he's starting to become a bit thoughtful. So he said, okay, well, actually, yeah, you know, very good, it's very astute of you. So, but do you really want the most valuable thing? He said, yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I'm here. So Lord Shiva sent me to you to get the most valuable thing. So please, he said, okay. First, take that touchstone and throw it over the cliff into the river. And the Brahma was a little, okay. But he passed the test. He did it. He went through it. He said, and then come back over here and say, okay. He said, okay, I did it. Oh, now sit down here and chant Hare Krishna. And he initiated him to the chanting of Hare Krishna. In other words, that's the most valuable thing. Okay? So in the same way, we're supposed to, from this, get the message that these people had everything. You know, Kardama Muni, he was such a powerful yogi, such an incredible yogi, that just by his desire, all of a sudden this aerial mansion just appeared. It was like described like almost like a city. It was many stories. It had all opulences. It was like incredible. And he was, so his material opulence is almost inconceivable. So the material opulence that Kardama Muni and Devahūti were enjoying is almost inconceivable. Yet they just turned, both of them, independently, they both turned their back on it to do what? To pursue pure devotional service. Kardama Muni could have stayed there and thought, well, you know what? Come to think of it, this isn't so bad after all. Let me just hang out with my wife. Okay, I did everything I was supposed to do, but this is kind of enjoyable, so I'll stay here, and next life I'll finish my bit. No. Boom, off he went. And Mother Devahūti, same thing. When Kardama Muni left and then Kapila left, she could have just went, well, okay, all right, but I'll stay here in the palace and I'll just live comfortably. I'll be somewhat Krishna conscious, but no, she just was to say here, in spite of all the possessions which were envy, she just took to performing like austerities. She just, top priority, pure devotional service. Forget about the palace. Who cares about the palace? Who cares about the clothes? Who cares about the body? Right? It's described she was bathing a lot. Her hair became gray. She became thin. So what? She couldn't care less. She was just pure devotional service. Kardama Muni, pure devotional service. Kapila Dev, show an example for to other people. So this is why, another sense in which it's the ideal household life, because they were showing by their own example what is the most important thing. Prabhupada, in one lecture, he was saying, if you have nothing and you renounce, that's kind of not so meaningful, But if you have everything, everything a conditioned soul, could possibly desire, which they did, And if they didn't have it, Kardama Muni could just desire it and get it. That's how connected they were, or he was. But nope, couldn't care less. Not interested. Pure devotional service. So that's the example here. That the most important thing is this pure devotional service, and we're supposed to get inspiration and try to follow in the footsteps of these great personalities, and in the sense of and trying to achieve pure devotional service in this lifetime our topmost priority. So, okay, now I got to get to the hard part of the purport. The hard part of the purport, here's this section where it goes. According to the Manu Samhita, women, the fair sex, should not have independence at any stage in life. In childhood, a woman must be under the protection of the parents. In youth, she must be under the protection of the husband. And in old age, she must be under the protection of the grown children. Devahūti demonstrated all these statements of the Manu Samhita in her life. As a child, she was dependent on her father. Later, she was dependent on her husband. And in spite of her opulence, she was later on dependent on her son Kapila Dev. So if I stopped the class there and avoided that, I'll be cheating. So I have to address this. All right, so how do we understand this? Well, I thought about it a bit, and first thing is, who's saying this? This is according to Manu, okay? So who is Manu? Well, we already mentioned. Manu is the son of Lord Brahma. That's certainly a qualification. But he had an additional qualification. Does anybody know what is the additional? This is, by the way, Swayambhuva Manu. Okay? So what was his additional qualification, aside from being a son of Lord Brahma? Okay, but yeah. Yeah, Manu Samhita, Manu Smriti. But what's his status as a devotee? Manu. There we go. He's one of the 12 Mahajans. Manu. Swayambhuva Manu. So, he's not just some ordinary person who's just given his opinion here, like Chanaka Pandit. I'm not to, blaspheme Chanaka Pandit in any way, but, Manu, this is like another level, like quite a few levels up. Chanaka Pandit was, Prabhupada loved, he quoted him a lot, but Manu, he's one of the 12 Mahajans. He's the son of Lord Brahma. He's one of the 12 Mahajans. This is Manu Samhita, Manu Smriti. It's Shastra, when he says something. So, sometimes, to hear this is a little uncomfortable for some devotees. Generally, it's devotees who are in women's bodies. But don't worry about it. It's Shastra. Just think of it like that. It's no different from when Krishna says, Dehino smen yata dehe komanam yovaram jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tacha namuyate, that we're not the body. It's no different. It's on that level. So you just accept it. Okay, that is Shastra. This is coming down from practically Krishna. It's coming down from one of the 12 Mahajans. So this is just the way it is, And we don't initially, if we're feeling like some uncomfortable when we hear that, you can think of it as it might be the contamination of cultural conditioning, because now it's like modern day people hearing this, they might think, no, this is male chauvinism. This is like the men trying to assert their superiority in some way or another. But that's a modern day, kind of way of thinking. And if you kind of project that onto the teachings here, okay, then you're going to feel some cognitive dissonance like that. But best not to do that. It's like if you're feeling like that because you're kind of, you have that sort of a mentality, best thing is just, no, I know where that's coming from, why I'm thinking like that. No, this is Shastra, it's perfect. Just like when we hear the instructions of, okay, you're not the body and you should reduce eating, reduce sleeping. We're not resentful of that, We don't try to modify the knowledge, we should try to modify our consciousness to accommodate the perfect knowledge. Right? So in the same way, as far as this instruction goes, for the devotees in women's bodies, if they have, it's easy for the men to accept this, because it makes it sound like the men are superior like that. But the women might have some difficulty with this, but I would suggest don't. Just modify your consciousness to accommodate the perfect knowledge. This is, it's Shastra, it's perfect, and just like we have to learn gradually how to accept that we're not the body, and perform the austerity of reducing eating, reducing sleeping, etc. In the same way, you accept this as perfect and modify our consciousness and our mentality to accept this, and eventually we'll realize it. It's perfect. It's coming down from the higher authority. So, I will stop there. Does anybody have any questions? Whoa, a bunch of hands go. Okay. Any questions? So I guess Satchidananda is senior, and Rabindranath, he's person.
Yeah, you were reading how women should be dependent. So if a woman is thinking that I'm very Krishna conscious, I'm very advanced, I don't need to do this, but shouldn't she think that, well, like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, whatever great men do, common men follow in their footsteps. So whatever great women do, that common women will follow in their footsteps. And specifically the common women need to follow that instruction.
Yeah, that's the point I was trying to make. Thank you for elaborating upon that. That it's Shastra, it's perfect. It's a perfect instruction. It's coming down from Manu, who's one of the 12 Mahajans. So no need to get mental about it, just accept it and we start practicing it. That kind of on the same page here? Yeah, so, okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's just a comment that in order for the women to actually, like you were saying, apply this, but I'm not the body, I'm not a woman. When you achieve that, it works perfectly. But also it's equally for the men, or responsibility of the men who hears the Shastra to help them not to be in the bodily concept of life.
Correct.
So because it's easy to quote and then the application becomes difficult. And if every man will see with the eyes of Shastra and with the pure consciousness, like Srila Prabhupada, there's no question about it. He saw any opportunity to protection. So if we will go in that direction and don't become ourselves, I would say maybe myself.
Yeah, the women should try to become like Devahūti, but the men should try to become like Kardama Muni, right? It's not like the women should become like Devahūti, but the men could just, no, there's certain roles, and just like, we're hearing about how the women have to be like this, and there's also duties and specific things that the men, should have, work to do. Does that make sense?
Who's next? Who do you want?
Huh? You can give it. Oh, well, Acharya and Artam. We're going here by seniority, I guess. That's fine.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna, you gave a wonderful example how Sanatana Goswami disregard the touchstone. So I was thinking, if right now we have a touchstone, right? So we can use it in Krishna service. So the point is that if we have something valuable now, so we shouldn't disregard or put it aside the way how Sanatana Goswami did it. Because if Sanatana Goswami could use that touchstone to build temples or to spread Krishna consciousness, I don't know. Good.
That's a good point. I mean, anasakta shavishayan yatarhan upayunjitahan nirbande Krishna sambande yukta vairagya muchate, that you have something, don't reject it, something that can be used in Krishna service. It's a Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says it's a great blunder. If you have something that can be used in Krishna service and you don't, it's a great blunder. So yeah, that's a valid perspective. But anyway, it's interesting that Sanatana Goswami did, that pastime is the way it played out, But that's a good point. I accept that. Okay, yeah, Krishna Kumar, please.
There's examples in our Vaishnava literatures of couples like Hiranyakashipu's wife, who Narada Muni personally spoke to, her son in the womb, that were married to demons and played their part, and Krishna gave direct mercy. Like Gandhari, who is the wife of Dhritarashtra. There's many examples where the wife is chaste, the husband may not be so qualified, and Krishna personally blessed them, delivered them. Can you speak on that maybe?
Not a lot, but this, I don't know if it's 3 or 7 chaste women. One of them is Mandodari, that's the wife of Ravana. Yeah, she's considered one of the, is it 7 or 3? One of the 7. Yeah, she's considered one of the 7 chaste women, like the 12 Mahajans. Well, the 7 chaste women, I can't remember the names of others, but she's one of them. The wife of Ravana, surprise, surprise. And you think that, wow, her husband's such a big demon, she'd be a demon. No. She was a Krishna conscious person, somehow or another. She's recognized as that. So yeah, that's there. But we shouldn't try to put the women in that position. That we're demons like that. But they, you have to do this. It's not. Let's do as. Our philosophy shouldn't be do as I say, not do as I do. But do as I say and do, and then you also like that follow. But not just I say it and you have to do it, and I could do something totally. I have a different standard for myself. No. Shamachandra Prabhu? I'm hoping the. Okay.
This instruction of giving protection to women is referred to Manu Smriti.
Yeah. So
the word itself says it is Smriti, right? So there's a difference between a Shruti and Smriti. Like, if you see Abrahamic religions, in Abrahamic religions also there are some statements. For example, whoever doesn't worship Jesus or Allah, they are all, demons. There are such statements. Like, that's why when Christian missionaries, when they came to India and they saw they're all kind of worshipping these demigods of ghastly forms, they thought that they're all like, they need to rescue them, and they thought that these are all like, pagans. Because those statements are taken literally. And usually Abrahamic religions don't discriminate between like a Shruti and Smriti. But in the Vedic literature, this is how it is different. There's a Shruti and Smriti. Shrutis are, eternal truths which cannot be changed. But Smritis are actually subjective to that particular time in a particular context, and it has to be interpreted by a guru how to practice it. So, we should not mix a Shruti statement as a Smriti statement and apply both in the same fashion. Then that gets fanatical actually. So Manu Smriti, it's a Smriti, not a Shruti. So that is something we need to keep in mind, especially those coming from Abrahamic religions. This sometimes, application gets tricky, like we cannot put both on the equal level. A Shruti statement and a Smriti statement. They're both understood and applied differently. That's one thing I want to make point.
Good point. And in your comment, you made the point that the Smriti has to be understood by the spiritual master, right? In our case, that would be true of the Shruti as well. We need to understand everything through the spiritual master. So, following on from what you said, so as far as this particular issue goes, the way for us to understand this is to research different things Prabhupada said in relation to this instruction, and also to research how Prabhupada himself dealt in different situations with women disciples, and then we could understand the proper application of this instruction from the Manu Samhita in this regard from Prabhupada's things he said about it or in relation to it and his example. Does that make sense following on from what you said? Yeah, that's, I was hoping one of the women would want to say something. I'd like to see how I did from the women's perspective.
Hare Krishna. It was very nice that we're giving such training to the men how to behave as proper husbands, because as you can see in the modern day world, one of the major problems is that women are never protected but always exploited. And because of their more vulnerable position, this leads to degradation of society. So hopefully what we're trying to do here is to create a class of men, Brahminical men, who will uphold and teach the world how to do things by giving example. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Gandharvas Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.